Greetings, loved ones. Grooming is the process of an adult establishing an emotional connection with the child and sometimes the child's family to sexually abuse the child. I know these are difficult topics, but we need to talk about them. Today we're going to discuss 6 subtle ways sexual predators groom their victims. Please pay attention. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. So let's discuss 6 subtle ways that child predators groom their victims. And if you want to know more about what grooming is, you can listen to our prior episode. So, what is grooming in child sexual abuse? It is the process of an adult establishing an emotional connection with a child and sometimes the child's family to sexually abuse the child. Some classic grooming behaviors include singling out a child as special, befriending the child's family, isolating the child, pushing physical boundaries slowly, gradually exposing the child to sexual content. Contrary to popular belief, child sexual abuse seldom happens at the hands of a shadowy stranger. Most child sexual abuse victims are actually abused by someone they know. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, of the sexual abuse cases reported to law enforcement, 93% of juvenile victims knew the aggressor. Of this percentage, 59% of aggressors were acquaintances and 34% were family members. When we talk about aggressors that are familiar to a child victim, we're often talking about trusted individuals like family friends, neighbors, teachers, faith leaders, coaches, and of course family members. But how are these trusted individuals able to get away with sexual abuse for so long? The answer in large part can be attributed to grooming. Grooming, again, I'm going to say, is the process of identifying a child victim and establishing an emotional connection with that child to eventually engage in contact the aggressor finds sexually gratifying. Grooming can occur both in person and online. In the latter case, an online groomer will often hide their true identity, posing as someone younger and contacting many children at once. To shed some light on what grooming behaviors perpetrators use to target children, let's look at some classic but subtle ways child predators groom their victims. So these are classic grooming behaviors. Number 1, singling out the child as special. Abusers often go above and beyond to make their target victim feel special. This might include things like giving gifts or referring to them as a best friend. And in families that have more than one child, the aggressor won't typically try to abuse every child, instead choosing to hone in on one victim. In this stage of grooming, the child likes receiving attention and feeling special. These warm, fuzzy feelings are often confusing for the child when sexual touch is eventually introduced into the relationship. Number 2, befriending family members of the child. Child predators groom children as well as their family members, giving themselves greater access to opportunities to be alone with the child. When the child sees the friendly relationship that their abuser has with their parents or other family members, it can keep them from sharing what's really going on behind closed doors once the sexual abuse begins. This may be because they don't want to disrupt the family peace or feel guilty for having complicated feelings about an individual that the family loves and trusts. Number 3, isolating the child. Once a trusting relationship with family and child has been established, an abuser will then look for times to be alone with the child. The abuser might offer to drive the child to school or soccer practice, or take the child out for ice cream, or even babysit. A predator may isolate the child emotionally by reinforcing the idea that they are the only one that truly understands what the child is going through, even more than the child's parents. This kind of manipulation can keep a child from opening up to other people about what's going on. So number 4 is gradually exposing the child to sexual content. So one of the reasons grooming can be so effective in trapping a child is because of its gradual nature. The aggressor will start to turn up the heat, so to speak, so slowly that the child adjusts and adjusts often without realizing the extent of what is happening. It typically doesn't happen all at once. And just came to mind here, I'm going to insert something. It reminds me of when they say you put a frog in a pan filled with water and turn on the stove, and the frog doesn't realize the changing of the temperature of the water until it's too late. Grooming behaviors take place first just to lower the child's inhibitions and to make them feel comfortable. Then they might start with a picture of the child, maybe in their underwear, or even showing the child a picture of a naked person. This kind of starts like that before any actual physical contact begins. Once the child has been exposed to visual sexual content, the aggressor may start to introduce sexual touching. This is the intended outcome of the grooming process. Number 5, pushing physical boundaries. An aggressor will often start to push physical boundaries, starting with innocent touching that eventually leads to inappropriate sexual contact. They may push physical boundaries, want to give hugs, or let the kid sit in their lap, or tickle the kid. The aggressor might also encourage activities that require undressing, like going swimming or shopping. Once the abuser begins to sexualize the relationship, things can become very confusing for the child. The child may struggle with not wanting sexual contact, but finding their body responds to sexual stimulation in a way that feels good. They may also be confused by dual feelings of dreading and enjoying special treatment by this important adult in their life. And number 6, encouraging secrecy. Once a sexual relationship has been established, the aggressor will often use secrecy and blame to guarantee continual participation and silence from the child or adolescent. The aggressor may encourage a child to keep secrets from family members, saying things like, "This will just be our little secret," or "Let's just keep this between us." The abuser may also use shame tactics to keep a child silent, especially if they are worried the child will expose the secret. They might say things like, "Your parents would be so ashamed of you if they found out," or "If you hadn't been such an affectionate child, none of this would have started." Children often blame themselves. They start to feel guilty, or they're scared of what might happen if they do share, and they tend to hide it because of shame or the fear that they will be blamed. And typically, that's how the abuser can get away with it. According to the CDC, over half of all children in the world experience violence every year. The question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. Micah 6:8 says, "He has showed you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to know there is a way out. It's not your fault. Abuse is not love. And most of all, I want you to know you are not alone. If you're suffering violence, reach out to somebody today. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. If you know of a child or other person suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we will discuss how to protect your child from sexual predators. Until then, God bless you.